So there's a shocking statistic that just came out of the Harvard Gazette in result of the health of people, and especially for health of people under 50 years of age. You might want to pay attention to this because this is pretty revelating. From the Harvard Gazette, they say that dramatic rise in cancer in people under 50 years of age. Dramatic rise. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of factors to this. I'm sure there's we've known for years that there's been increases to risk of cancer over decades and decades. Um, Technology, radiation, the food we eat, processed food, obesity. There's a lot of things that go into why people get cancer, but the fact that it's increased this much is kind of shocking. It's kind of something to be noted and pointed out and should be the front page of every single newspaper. Um, so they say a study by researchers from Brigham and Women's Hospital. Is that supposed to be the new pronoun then? I love how they say Brigham and Women's Hospital. That's the you can't call it male. You gotta call it Brigham. I don't know. Maybe that's the name, but anyway. A study by researchers from Brigham and Women's Hospital reveals that the cited. So maybe I'll just start from here. Okay. So it says a study by researchers from Brigham and Women's Hospital. Is that a pronoun? Is that the new one of the new pronouns we're allowed to use? Brigham, Brigham, Brigham and Women's Hospital. Maybe that's the name. I'm just curious by that. Reveals that the incidence of early onset cancers, including breast, colon, esophagus, kidney, liver, and pancreas, has dramatically increased around the world, with the rise beginning around 1990. In an effort to understand why many more people under 50 are being diagnosed with cancer, scientists conducted extensive analysis of available data, including information on early life exposures that might have been contributed to this trend. Results are published in Natural Reviews Clinical Oncology. From our data, we observed something called the birth cohort effect. This effect shows that each successive group of people born at a later time, for example, a decade later, have a higher risk of developing cancer later in life, likely due to risk factors they were exposed to at a young age. Said Sanjay Guno, a professor at Harvard Chan School at Harvard Medical School and a physician scientist in the Department of Pathology at the Brigham. We found that this risk is increasing with each generation. For instance, people born in 1960 experience higher cancer risk before they turn 50 than people born in 1950. And we predicted that this is the risk level will continue to climb to successful generations. Onago worked with lead author Tamakatsu Yagi. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing these words. And colleagues from 2000 to 2012 to analyze global data on 14 cancer types that showed increased instances in adults before age 50. Then the team searched for available studies that examined trends of possible risk factors, including early life exposures in the general populations. Finally, the researchers examined the literature describing clinical and biological tumor characteristics of early onset cancers compared with cancers diagnosed after age 50. So, I wonder if it has to do with phones. I wonder if it has to do with processed food. There's so many factors. Smoking, red meat. I don't know, but they say in an extensive review, the team found that early life exposome, which emphasizes an individual's diet, lifestyle, weight, environmental exposures, and microbiome, have changed substantially in the last several decades. They hypothesize that factors like the Western diet and lifestyle may be contributing to the rise in early onset cancer. Are you telling me that my McChickens a day, the Western diet, you mean all the McDonald's and Chipotle's and Taco Bell's, they may have a contributing factor to cancer? No, come on. All those nice chemicals that they have in those burgers. The team acknowledged that this increased incidence of certain cancer types is in part due to early detection through cancer screening programs. They couldn't precisely measure what proportion of this growing prevalence could solely be attributed to screening and early detection. However, they noticed the increased incidence of many of the 14 cancer types is unlikely due to enhanced screening alone. Possible risk factors for early onset cancer include, so they have a long list of this: alcohol consumption, sleep deprivation, smoking, obesity, and eating highly processed foods. Surprisingly, researchers found that while adult sleep duration hasn't drastically changed over the several decades, children are getting far less sleep today than they were decades ago. Children. So, tell your kids that it's important to have bedtimes because of this. You don't want to grow up to have cancer. Risk factors such as high processed food, sugary beverages, obesity, type 2 diabetes, sedentary lifestyle, and alcohol consumption have all significantly increased since the 1950s. Among the 14 cancer types on the rise that we studied, 8 were related to the digestive system, the food we eat, the microorganisms in our gut, said Miyagi. Diet directly affects microbe consumption, and eventually these changes can influence disease risk and outcomes. One limitation of the study is that researchers did not have an adequate amount of data from low and middle income countries to identify trends in cancer incidence over the decades. Going forward, Onago and Agi hope to continue this research by collecting more data and collaborating with international research institutions to better monitor global trends. They have also explained the importance of conducting coherent studies with parental consent to include young children, yada yada yada. So that's something. And that's just a short list, I think. Because I always hear that like there's microplastics that we ingest within like water bottles and stuff that's also contributing to cancer. Cell phones, if you have a cell phone in your pocket for various lengths of times, that brings radiation to certain parts of the body. They're saying that's a factor that products that we use that get into our skin because our skin absorbs it, that's a factor. Being out in sunlight, there's so many things, which is one of the reasons why cancer research is such a hard thing to understand, is because we don't exactly know for a fact what is actually causing more of these outbreaks. But I've had family members in my lifetime. I have family members now that are dealing with cancer treatments. I know friends and family and other people that have been dealing with this, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to know when someone has cancer. It's heartbreaking that they don't fully understand why, and they don't know. You can be even the healthiest person and still have a risk for cancer, and it might not even be a physical thing. It might not even be a personal judgment. It may have to do with the environment. Like there's environmental factors. If you're living in a county where there's poison toxins around the area, that could lead to cancer. That's not personal responsibility. So there's so many things that go into this, and this is shocking. This is shocking that none of this is really being mentioned. Like, I don't hear this on CNN. I don't hear this on MSNBC. I've never heard this on any mainstream outlet, not even here in Canada. We know it's happening. We know it's happening. There's a lot more people that have been diagnosed with certain types of cancer than before. And, we're seeing health risks among health risk, and certain things are not really changing, and we're not really progressing in a healthier way. Like, I don't know really how to put into details, but there's certain things that attribute more to the cause of cancer than actually preventing it. And maybe it's because of the fact that we live in such a global capitalistic economy, where we want to, privatize healthcare and profit off of sick people, that instead of actually curing people with cancer, we rather just, let people have it and slowly treat it so we can keep billing them and charging them, and we can make a profit motive off it. So there's a lot to be said about this. There's a lot to be said, but that is a shocking detail for people under 50 years of age, that dramatic rise in cancer. And not a lot of people are talking about this, not a lot mentioned about this. Like, even with the pandemic, yes, COVID is a virus that's happening right now. It's affecting a lot of people, but they're not talking about this. They're not talking about people with a immune deficiency. They're not talking about vitamin D intakes. They're not talking about how people are losing touch with their immunity, and because of years of poor diet and lack of sunshine and exercise and stuff like that, their immunity is starting to disintegrate. And that's why a lot more people are getting sicker and getting worse off in the situation, because we're not building that immunity. This is just stuff I'm hearing from doctors. Let me just be honest. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. I have no medical background, but this is what I hear from doctors on a regular. And apparently, if I repeat that back to you, I'm spreading propaganda. I'm apparently spreading misinformation, even though these are scientifically proven studies and clinical analysis that prove otherwise. I'm somehow spreading medical misinformation. So take this as you will. Take this as you will. Let's just go with that.